The observation deck of orbital station Kepler-9 had never been designed for combat. Its transparent aluminum walls offered a panoramic view of the gas giant below, meant to inspire awe in diplomats and scientists not to withstand the fury of Kresh raiders. Lyra had known this the moment the first explosion rocked the civilian sector. She was a maintenance engineer, not a soldier. Her calloused hands were built for rewiring conduits and patching hull breaches. Not for heroics, but when the evacuation alarm screamed through the corridors and the Kresh boarding parties breached Dock 7, none of that mattered. What mattered was the small, trembling form of Jax, a Valorian cub, barely 4 solar cycles, old, clutching her leg as plasma fire lit up the hallway behind them. "Lyra?" Jax's voice was a whisper, his crystalline eyes wide with terror. The translator implant in his collar struggled to keep pace with his rapid, chittering native tongue. "Where is Mother?" Lyra's heart clenched. She had seen Jax's mother, Ambassador Kira, directing other families toward the escape pods before a Kresh energy blade had cut her down. The image was seared into Lyra's mind, but she forced her voice steady. "She's making sure everyone gets out safe," Lyra said, crouching to meet Jax's eyes. "But right now, you're with me, and I'm going to get you somewhere safe. I promise." Crow. The Valorians were a species of scholars and artists, their bodies delicate, their bones hollow like birds of earth. Jax weighed almost nothing as Lyra scooped him up and ran. His small claws dug into her shoulder, but she barely felt it. Behind them, the guttural roars of the Kresh warriors echoed a sound like grinding metal and fury. The Kresh were raiders, opportunists who preyed on peaceful stations along the frontier. They stood nearly 3 meters tall, their exoskeletons impervious to standard-issue stun weapons. Humanity had negotiated an uneasy truce with them decades ago, but treaties meant nothing when profit was involved. And Kepler-9, with its research labs and wealthy residents, was a prize worth the risk. Lyra's lungs burned as she sprinted through the service corridors, her boots pounding against metal grating. The emergency lighting cast everything in red, turning familiar passages into alien labyrinths. She knew these tunnels better than anyone, had spent years crawling through them, fixing leaks and replacing faulty sensors. That knowledge was the only advantage she had. "Access Corridor 7B, she muttered, skidding around a corner. The maintenance shaft would take them directly to the emergency shelter in the station's core, a reinforced bunker designed to survive even a catastrophic hull breach. If she could just reach it. A Kresh warrior stepped into the corridor ahead. Lyra's blood turned to ice. The creature was massive, its armor scarred and pitted from countless battles. In one clawed hand, it held a plasma rifle that could vaporize her in an instant. Its 4 eyes fixed on her, then on the small bundle in her arms. Jax whimpered, pressing his face against Lyra's chest. The Kresh spoke, its voice a wet snarl that her translator struggled to parse. "Human. Give. Cub. You live." For a heartbeat, Lyra considered it. She was no warrior. She had a family back on Earth, a sister, nephews she video-called every week. She could drop Jax and run. The Kresh probably wanted him for ransom, leverage against the Valorian Council. He would likely survive. Probably. Likely. Lyra's grip tightened on the cub. No. The word came out steady, defiant. It surprised her how calm she sounded. Inside, her heart hammered against her ribs like it wanted to escape. The Kresh tilted its head, mandibles clicking in what might have been curiosity or amusement. Foolish. It raised the plasma rifle. Lyra didn't think. There was no time for thought. She turned, shielding Jax with her body, and dropped into a crouch. The blast seared over her head, superheating the air, and she felt the heat wash across her back like opening an oven door. But she was already moving, diving toward the maintenance shaft entrance just 3 meters away. Another shot. This one caught her in the left shoulder, and the pain was instant. White-hot agony that made her vision blur. But her legs kept pumping. 2 more meters. 1. She slammed into the access panel, her good hand punching in the override code even as her wounded shoulder screamed in protest. The hatch hissed open, and she shoved Jax through. "Go," she gasped. "Climb down. There's a ladder. Don't stop until you reach the shelter. Code is 7794. Tell them." The third plasma bolt hit her in the back. Lyra fell. The world tilted, the red emergency lighting spinning into darkness. She couldn't feel her legs, couldn't feel much of anything except the cold metal against her cheek and the distant, fading sound of Jax's terrified cries. Her last conscious thought was a hope that the cub would climb fast, that her body blocking the entrance would buy him enough time. Then there was nothing. The station's security feed captured everything. The footage spread through the evacuation fleet within hours, passed from ship to ship, as survivors shared their stories. It showed a human woman, unarmed, untrained, standing between a Kresh warrior and a child that wasn't even her species. It showed her fall, and it showed what happened next. Because humans, the galaxy would learn, were rarely alone. When Lyra's biosign flatlined, every human on Kepler 9 received the notification simultaneously. Maintenance crews, security officers, the skeletal military detachment, even civilians huddled in the shelters. They all saw the same name, the same status. Deceased. They all saw the footage. The station went silent, and then humanity stopped running. Engineer Marcus Chen, who had been cowering in a supply closet, stepped into the corridor with a plasma cutter in hand. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo abandoned her evacuation pod and returned to medical, pulling survivors from the wreckage with her bare hands. Security Chief Ramon Vasquez, who had been coordinating the retreat, reversed course and led every armed human in a counter-assault that drove the Kresh back toward their boarding crafts, with a ferocity that shocked even veteran warriors. The Kresh had expected prey. They found something else. In the end, the raiders fled. They left behind their dead and their wounded, abandoning equipment and salvage in their haste to escape. The station was damaged, scarred, but standing. And in the shelter's core, surrounded by Valorian families who held him close and wept, a small cub named Jax clutched a torn piece of fabric, the sleeve from Lyra's uniform, and whispered a word his translator finally managed to convey. Hero. The galaxy had wondered, for decades, what made humans dangerous. They were not the strongest, not the fastest, not the smartest. But when one of their own fell protecting the innocent, they became something else entirely. They became inevitable. And the Kresh, like so many others before them, learned too late. You could kill a human, but you should never, ever make them choose between their life and their conscience, because they would choose conscience every single time, and then the others would come for you.